All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting episode of Daily December 2020. And I'm running out of jokes just to mention how horrible 2020 has been. So insert funny joke here. Um, so today, um, I have mentioned this before on this channel. My first tabletop version of the D&D that I played was fourth edition. Um, Fourth edition is an extremely polarizing edition of D&D because it made a lot of changes. Most of which I actually think were benefited D&D as a whole, because third edition and the 3.5 made it so complicated that they lost most of their new users, um, and made really hurt the kind of sellability of D&D. And fifth edition was a kind of a reaction to all the things that third edition did were wrong that scared people away, and then all the things that fourth edition did wrong, that scared away current players. I think fourth edition had more new adapters. But a lot of the people that have been playing for years and years and years wouldn't go to fourth edition because of how big a change it was. Um, but I loved it. I still use aspects of fourth edition design in my fifth edition games. So today, I will want to just walk you through a character I built. I found a character builder that lets you build fourth edition characters. They used to have an online character builder that I adored. It was $10 a month, and not only did you get your the character builder, which was really robust, but it also gave you access to effectively all the core rule books of fourth edition D&D, including all the monster manuals and all the supplements and the things like that. Like, you just had all of it for $10 a month. It was just a steal. This is not that. They canceled that last year, which I found out trying to do something like this. But I found a workaround that I won't describe into too much detail, but it's interesting. And I've spoken many at a time about my first fifth edition character, which is a shadow monk named Aether, um, and how since building that character, which the origin of that character was, I watched Critical Role, and I was really into the show, and I saw that they had guests on every so often, and so I built a character and created a backstory and everything for it, in case one day, I was just wandering around Los Angeles, a little like you do when you live in Wisconsin. Um, and Matt Mercer just, randomly came up to me and said, "Hey, do you want to play? Do you want to get a guest on Critical Role tonight?" And I'd go, "Why, yes, I do. Here's my character." So that's where he came from. And now, like every single video game I play that has a character creator, I build Aether in it. Most of the MMOs I play, I have an Aether character. So I decided, and it's been almost a year maybe since I did this, but I built Aether in fourth edition. Uh, and I think this just goes to show you how cool and fun fourth edition is. Because playing Aether in fifth edition is a blast. I love the character. But just the crazy stuff I can do in fourth edition is just awesome. So that's what we're going to do today, is I'm just going to walk you through my fourth edition character sheet. So let's go to it. So this is the character sheet, you'll notice I made him level 6 because in order to get all the features I needed, I did have to multi-class him. Now, in 4th edition, there were two different ways to multi-class. It wasn't like 5th edition, and 3rd edition was kind of a similar to the thing, where when you leveled up, you could choose to just take a level in another class. In 4th edition, there was two different ways to multi-class. You could do what was called building a hybrid character, which basically meant you were both classes simultaneously. And whenever you leveled up, you would be able to choose powers from either class. And so you could create this really cool hybrid of a character, and it turned into some really, really interesting characters. It also turned into some massively broken characters. We had this one guy that built a hybrid Blackguard Bard. So an anti-paladin bard, a singing death knight is what he was. And because of the abilities and feats that he was able to combine, he was able to add like 2 or 3 different modifiers to all of his attack damage. A couple modifiers he would add twice. And he would just do insane damage. So yeah, the 4th edition had its problems, and the hybrid system created some really whacked out characters. But that's not actually how I built this character. I actually built him as an assassin, which the assassin class was one of. They had kind of a 4.5 of a version where they were called essentials characters, and they were designed to be a little bit more simple. You didn't have quite as many different powers you could choose from, and they in general were easier to run at low levels. Once you got to the second half, really, of the Paragon tier, which is levels 10 through 20, or getting into the Epic tier, which was 21 through 30, the Essentials characters became super underpowered. But at level 6, they're really, really cool and fun. So let's actually go over the cool stuff here. So all the numbers stuff is interesting, but doesn't really matter. We're not playing the game, so I'm not going to even go over it. Most of the stuff you're going to see here is stuff that I'm going to be able to explain when I get to my cards anyways. But things like every race had a bunch of different features. The one that's going to be most useful in this build is the Elven Accuracy, which is basically if you don't like an attack roll once per in counter, you can decide to re-roll it, which was really nice. You'll see this Scavenger Bird key focus in there a lot. Monks could use a key focus as an implement, very similar to a wand, to use certain powers and things like that. So that specific key focus is one that's actually designed for an assassin. So this is designed to be a hybrid focus anyways. These are the class features to it. Assassin Shroud, which I'll just show you when I look at the cards. The guild training is just another way you can kind of customize the character. Night Stalker means I do charisma mod bonus damage against targets that are adjacent to no enemies. That's the other thing that's kind of interesting about this is actually a Dex charisma character. So its primary stat is dexterity, and its secondary stat is charisma. So that's always interesting. So yeah, I do extra damage equal to my charisma power. I get a couple things, like I get Shadow Step and Shade Form, and then the unarmed combat comes from one of my feats. In 4th edition, every other level you get a feat, and at first level you will get a feat. So at 6th level, I would have a first level feat, a second level of a feat, a fourth level of a feat, and then a 6th level feat. So the other way you can multi-class instead of doing a hybrid is you actually take a feat that gives you access to some of the abilities of another class. And I took Master of the Fist, which is the monk multi-classing feat. It gave me training in either athletics or acrobatics. I can't remember which one I chose. And then the unarmed combatant feature, which meant I could attack with unarmed strikes as a weapon. High Elf Kin basically means whenever I use Elven Accuracy, I can teleport. 2 squares, which a square equals 5 feet, so that's 10 feet of teleportation. And it gives me a bonus to Arcana checks, which doesn't really matter. Lethal Shroud, we'll talk about Assassin Shroud in a little bit, but it just makes it do more damage. And then Assassin's Escape allows it, anytime somebody damages me, I can use this power as an interrupt to defend myself. Yeah, those are the feats. These are my different skills. You'll notice these skills themselves, like the bonuses, even at level 6, are really high. Things like my stealth bonus is plus the 13. Rogues in 5th edition are the only ones that will ever get a plus the 13 stealth to check, or stealth bonus. And again, this is just level 6. 4th edition was known for just having lots of really big numbers. So everything is just increased by a billion and a half. This is my actual, it lists my different powers and things like that. I never use the sheet. The picture right over here, I believe is just the generic assassin picture, but it kind of fits my idea of what Aether looks like in general. He's clean shaven, but other than that, he always wears a hood with a little cape on it, and he wears leather armor. So we'll talk about the cool magic items I have later. So this is all the stuff. Again, I never use this page because this is my favorite part of 4th edition. It was just the fact that you had these cards that you could keep with you that had all of your abilities on them. And it was just fun to go to the table and pull out your cards and spread them out or keep them in a card catalog, or however you did it. I knew a lot of people that would keep their cards in binders. You could actually buy the actual like playing cards that were printed with the abilities. The only bad thing about them is they wouldn't add your own bonuses to them. You just have the generic. Or when you use the character builder, it would give you these printable cards that had everything you needed. Like this card right here has all your defenses. Has your passive insight, your passive perception. It's got your speed, which is measured in squares because everything was in 4th edition. It's got your initiative bonus, and it's got your hit points. And then anytime you needed to know what your skill checks were, you had this card here. Action point is what eventually turned into action surge for fighters. And it gave you an extra standard action. Every other combat, you would get another action point in an adventuring day. So if you had 2 combats in an adventuring day without having a long rest, you would be fine. But once you got to the 3rd combat, you would gain an additional action point. So in general, action points, unlike the actions as a surge for the fighter, where you kind of want to wait until you've got a really good opportunity for it, action points, you were kind of supposed to use them once every other battle, because you were constantly getting more. And if you did a long rest, it reset back to 1. So yeah, all of fourth edition was a lot more kind of power fantasy style things where you're doing a lot more. Let's go in. Second wind is just something that any character could do. You had 3 different actions, very similar to fifth edition. In fourth edition, you had a standard action, a minor action, and a move of action. And if I remember correctly, you could take a second minor action instead of your standard action if you had multiple minors you wanted to do. Or you could take a move action as your standard action. So unlike fifth edition, where your action is your action and your bonus action is your bonus action, and they don't really, there's no way to change one into the other. Fourth edition, you could get really tactable about how you use your actions. So second win was just something you could use once per encounter, and you do a thing called spending a healing surge. The way you healed is you had a set number of healing surges. If I go up to my first sheet, it'll actually come on. It'll actually tell me. So I have 6 surges a day, and my healing surge value is 10 because there's always a quarter of your hit points. Anytime you got healed, or almost every time you got healed, you would burn one of your healing surges instead of someone else like burning a spell or something like that. So all this was it let you burn a healing surge in the middle of combat instead of waiting for a short rest, which in 4th edition, short rests were 5 minutes, not an hour. So let's just show you the cool stuff I could do as an assassin monk. Assassin Shroud is the assassin ability. It's their kind of defining feature. Basically, as a free action, I could basically mark a target within 10 squares of me, which is, again, a square is 5 feet. So within 50 feet of me, I could mark a target and put an assassin shroud on them. I can only do that once per turn, once per round on my turn. However, if I make an attack roll against them, I can choose to invoke my shrouds, which would do extra damage. So each shroud would normally do a d6 of extra damage on top of any damage I would do with whatever attack I was doing. I could have up to 4 shrouds on a target at any given time. With lethal shroud, it turned it into a d8. So that was kind of the main mechanic of the assassin, is you would put shrouds on enemies, and then you would attack the enemy and use the shroud to do extra damage. Very similar to kind of like a hunter's mark, except you'll notice that the card here is green. Green means it's an at-will power, so there's no limit to how often you can use it, other than you have to have an action available to do it. And this one in particular is special, where it says you can only use this power only on your turn and only once per turn. So you never ran out of assassin shrouds. Shadow Step was the other thing, which is a 5th edition ability that Shadow Monks could get. The interesting thing about this is it only lets you teleport from adjacent to one creature to adjacent to a different creature within 3 squares, so within 15 feet, which basically makes the assassin kind of a character that kind of just jumps around and does damage that allows another character to finish off the creature. And since there actually were classes that benefited from reducing a creature to 0 hit points, if an assassin teamed up with another thing, like I think a Blackguard got it. I think there was a couple others. You could create this really, really strong team where the assassin would go in and do major damage, and then the other guy would come in and finish it off and get whatever benefit they got from downing at the target. So Shadow Step, another at-will power. So it uses my move action. So I could either move, which again, I had a speed of 7. So I could move 7 squares, or I could use Shadow Step, and I'd only be able to move the 3 squares, but it's a teleportation. So no opportunity attacks or anything like that. It breaks out of grabs and stuff like that. So very useful. Then you get 2 at-will powers when you start the class at first level. These are basically your standard attacks. The 2 that I chose were Inescapable Blade and Executioner's Noose. Inescapable Blade effectively let me hit up to 2 squares further than I normally could. Normally with a melee weapon, you have to be right next to it. This... I could be up to 2 squares away and still make the attack roll. As you can see, it gives the description of what it does here, and then it actually shows you, depending on what weapon you're using. I don't know why it always shows me the Monk Unarmed Strike and this, but this is the only one that I would use. The Scavenge Bird Key Focus Monk Unarmed Strike is what I would use for my attack. So it's a plus 13 to attack rolls and a 1d8 plus 2 damage. So not a ton, but when you combine that with this Assassin Shroud, which I can do every turn, that means every turn from up to 2 squares away, I can do 2d8 plus 2 damage. And it just gets more powerful as I get to the higher levels. Executioner's Noose was my ranged attack. It had a range of about 5, and what would happen is if you hit it, you could pull the target to 2 squares closer to you. That's what pull meant, is it had to move towards you. And then the target would be slowed until the end of your next turn. So very much that was kind of a hybrid controller style move, where I could just kind of reach out and like, get over here, boom, and pull them. And again, as you can see, plus 10 to its attack and a d6 plus 7 damage. The reason that this one is a plus 13 and this one's a plus 10 is this one is just an implement thing, so it's technically only using my Scavenge Bird Key Focus. It doesn't get any benefit from the Unarmed Strike, while this one is a weapon attack, and my Unarmed Strike, whenever I would use it, would give me a plus 3 to attack rolls. That was one of the less nice things about 4th edition, was there was a lot of modifiers. Not nearly as many as the 3rd edition, where they did a lot of what were called the floating modifiers, which were ones that would change randomly in combat. These modifiers were always the same. And they would, again, if you were using a character builder, they would take care of all the math for you. You just had to look at what you were attacking with. So it was really cool. So those were the at-will powers. You also had these red cards, which are in counter powers. We talked about before. I have that ability where if somebody hits me, I can use an immediate interrupt to cast Shade Form. This is a Shade Form. I gain Insubstantial, which means I believe I take half the damage from stuff, and I can like walk through solid objects. But if I end my Shade Form in a solid object, I get shunted out and to take damage. And it also makes it easier for me to make stealth checks to become hidden. And I can try to become hidden by just having an ally in between me and the enemy, which is a big deal. and then I can sustain it for a minor action. I can sustain it, so just continue to be in substantial as long as I will want. Yeah. Then this encounter power is an actual attack, which does damage, and then until the end of your next turn, you're invisible while you're within 2 squares of the target. So this one was really, really useful because, first of all, it already did extra damage. As you can see, 2d8 plus this is 7 did damage. If I add on 1 SS Assassin Shroud, that turns to 3d8. If I have multiple SS Assassin Shroud, again, I can have up to 4 on a target if I don't use them every single turn. That can turn into 68 plus this is 7 damage for an ability that I can use once per encounter. So this is your encounter abilities you were generally using every single combat because you would always get them back. And it turned me invisible against an enemy. So this one was really, really useful if you're fighting boss kind of characters or just monsters that had a lot of hit points. Being invisible for it to turn is really nice. It'd give you combat advantage. They couldn't target you. It was nice. Inescapable Shadow was the other one I had, which this one fits into how I play Aether, which is he would just teleport around, stunning people. I can't stun with this character, unfortunately, but I gave him a bunch of teleportation abilities. Before the attack, you teleport 5 squares to a square adjacent to your Assassin Shroud to target. So that's up to 25 feet. And again, as a free action, I can put an Assassin Shroud on any target I want within 50 feet. So as my free action, I would just Assassin Shroud someone, and then I could still move because this is part of my standard action. So I could move to get close enough. Then I would use this as my standard to teleport over and do a bunch of damage to it. Now you'll notice it'll say dexterity versus AC. That just means which defense you're going against. Again, in 4th edition, you had 4 defenses: AC, Fortitude, Reflex, and Will. And having attacks that could attack multiple defenses was always as useful because you would always find a creature that just had a really, really high AC or maybe a really, really high Fortitude defense. And so you'd modify what defense you were attacking. So again, this is just teleportation and a lot of damage. Targeted for death, you will see these gray ones. Those are daily powers. You only get those back on a long rest, but they are the most powerful. Targeted for death was a ranged attack. It actually attacked the target's will instead of AC. So this bypassed like super armor heavy creatures. I could bypass this. The attack would do 3d8s plus my dex mod cold damage. So it's literally just like doing, ninja stuff and going cold. It would freeze them. And then until the end of the encounter, whenever you use Assassin Shroud against the targets, you subject to 2 shrouds instead of 1. So that changes things. Again, when you use this as your standard action, you would probably invoke your Shroud before it. Or normally you would invoke a Shroud and then you'd use your standard action. Because of this, I would do the 3d8 plus this is 7 damage. And then I would Assassin Shroud it and I would put 2 Shrouds this is on. The next turn, I would be able to Assassin Shroud the target again, putting 4 Shrouds. And then whatever ability, like even with Inescapable Blade, that would be 5d8 plus 2 damage. So this one was really, really useful. Again, dailies you generally only used against against really, really tough guys because they did a lot of stuff. The other daily attack I had was Shadow Soul. Um, and the reason I took this, because again, it was the teleport ability. Basically, what it was I do I would do 2d8 plus 7 damage for the attack. And then until the end of my next turn, I'd have a +5 power bonus to perception checks against the target. So this was primarily useful against targets that would try to hide or become invisible or anything like that. It would make it easier for me to find them. However, for a sustained minor, the power bonus persists, and if the target's not hidden from you, you teleport 20 squares to a square adjacent to it. So if effectively 20 squares again, a square is 5 feet, so that's 100 feet. As long as the creature's within 100 feet of me, for a minor action, I can just bamf to it. And again, the ability to teleport has more uses than just covering ground. If for whatever reason I got grappled or restrained, teleportation takes me out of that. Or if I have a lot of people around me that are trying to hurt me, teleportation means they don't get opportunity attacks. So there's a lot of really good reasons to use the teleportation. And if you have a hyper-mobile enemy, which did exist in 4th edition, this would mean it could never get away from me. And yeah, I chose that power specifically because it let me to teleport effectively at will. As long as I kept sustaining it with my minor actions. So, yeah. I don't know why I have 2 second wind cards. I'm going to see if I can just hide that one. I hope it kept the other second wind, because I like having 1. I don't need 2. Elven Accuracy, we talked about that. You make an attack roll and dislike the results. You re-roll the attack roll, use the second roll even if it's lower, and because of High Elf Kin, I can teleport to 2 squares as a free action as part of using Elven Accuracy. And that is an encounter power, so I can use that every encounter. Converging Shadows. You get Concealment, which Concealment would increase... I think it would increase some of your defenses. I'd have to look at it again. But basically, if someone targeted you with a melee or ranged attack, you could use Converging Shadow, again, another counter power. And then, if that caused it to miss, you could make a stealth check to hide, effectively making it so they can't see you anymore. So that's always cool. You could literally just conjure up shadows to protect you. It's one of the reasons I like the Assassin, is they're very much a shadow kind of a focus class. They get to control shadows and that. And then the final encounter ability, the blue cards, by the way, are utility powers, and they can be at will, encounter, or daily. In this particular instance, I picked all encounter powers because they tend to be useful. Trigger, if I'm hit by an attack, I become invisible until the start of my next turn, and I teleport up to my speed. So I just built a bamfing assassin, and I really like it. I think it's cool. The Scavenger Bird key focus, basically it gave me a +2 to attack and damage rolls. And on a critical, I got additional damage. The way crits worked in 4th edition was if you rolled a crit, you would do max damage, and then you'd roll your damage again. So like if you crit and your damage is supposed to be 1d8 +2, you would do 10 damage, and then you would roll another d8 on top of that. With this focus, this key focus, I would do an additional to 2d6 damage, and I can't see what the rest of the critical effect is. I'd have to look at the... I'd have to actually look it up in the other thing, but I get extra stuff for getting crits with this thing. So that's why I chose that. I also had an at-will power that was a part of this magic item. Magic items were everywhere in 4th edition. Because I built this as a 6th level character, the way that you build a character starting at a higher level is you give them... 3 magic items. One item that should be 1 level higher than the character, which is this one. It's level 7. One magic item that is the same level as the character, which is this one here, and the one that is 1 level below the character level. So that's my key focus. Summon leather armor, just because it's cool. Gave me a +2 to AC, which is useful. However, this is my favorite thing. It's an at-will power. As a minor action, I can just banish the armor to an extra dimensional location, and then as a minor action, I can poof it back into being. So I can be walking around in comfortable clothes and just, being my cool assassin self. And bad stuff starts happening. I am fully armored up instantly. And there's no limit to how often I can do it. I like the fact that I can summon my armor magically to me. It's super badass. And the last one was Cape of the Mountebank. This is a magic item in 5th edition. It works totally differently. I think 5th edition, it gives you the ability to effectively cast Face Step. Or not Face Step, Misty Step. This one was an immediate reaction, which you'll notice they have immediate reactions and then immediate interrupts. A reaction happens after whatever triggered it. So if someone attacks you, a reaction, you let them resolve the attack first. An interruption is as soon as the triggering effect happens, you get to do your action. So if the triggering effect is you get hit by an attack, your interruption ability actually happens before they roll the damage and can actually affect the damage because it interrupts the turn immediately. This, however, is a reaction. When you're hit by an attack, I can teleport 5 squares and gain combat advantage against the attacker until the end of my next turn, and that's a daily ability. So another thing that lets me to teleport. Who would have thought? So yeah, this is my version of Aether from a 4th edition perspective. And this is why I really loved 4th edition, because it was just so cool. With the fact that you got magic, DMs gave them magic items out like they were candy. You were constantly getting new powers that were really interesting. Every single power changed how you played the character. You never really had a level where all that happened was, oh, my attack rolls go up by 1, or my damage rolls could go up by 1. Everything changed, and everything let you do new, cool, interesting things. And that's one of the reasons I loved 4th edition so much. I would love to play in a 4th edition game if I could find anybody that was actually willing to run 4th edition again, because again, it is so much fun to play, and you feel so powerful that it's not really comparable with 5th edition. Don't get me wrong, I love 5th edition. There's a really good reason as to why both my D&D campaigns are 5th edition and not 4th edition. It's a phenomenal system. But every so often, I do miss 4th edition. Anyway, that's going to be all for today. I hope you guys liked this little trip back into 4th edition. If you guys are interested, I've been thinking about possibly building a level 30 character, or at least like a level to the 21 character, so you guys could see what an epic level adventurer in 4th edition was, because they were freaking broken. You know the line Keyless says in campaign 1, where we're basically gods, splat. Yeah. 5th edition, yeah, level 20 characters are powerful. 4th edition, level 30 characters, you could fight gods and win. Like, you could fight multiple gods simultaneously and win. You could create your own existence as the 30 level characters. They were so massively overpowered and amazing. They were so much fun to play. So yeah, if you guys are interested in more fourth edition stuff, or if you want to see me build a fourth edition just crazy overpowered character, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, again, it's all for me. I'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, bye bye.